This is the 5-minute sample for King's Eyes, The Kings of Men MC Book 2, by Ki Brightly and M.D. Gregory. This is my 19th audiobook, and it was released on December 20th, 2019. Much like King's Killer, King's Eyes challenges the reader to another moral dilemma. Where Killer focuses on one of the men being a murderous enforcer, Eyes focuses on the biker love interest stalking the other man. This is another compelling dynamic, because you want to see the two men get together, but, just like the men involved, you have to learn to reconcile the morality of their actions with the likability of their personalities and motivations. Manipulating the plot in this way gets the reader more involved, because it almost gives them a sense of what it's like to be in the relationship, and I think this book pulls it off fairly well. There were a few moments where I wished the ramifications from Eyes' actions were more severe. Whenever he's in trouble, he seems to get off on the fact that he's a handsome guy and seemingly apologetic more often than not, and the situations where he gets to prove he's more than that just sort of unfold in front of him. It's not overly cheesy, but I would have liked to see the consequences of his actions more. The quote-unquote villain in this book is an overbearing police officer. The seemingly good guy turned bad because of their pomposity is another plot device that's comparable to Beauty and the Beast, like what happened last week when I talked about King's Killer. It's always fun to see a self-important individual get their comeuppance after they've been such an annoyance for the duration of the narrative. All in all, this is not a bad romance. It gets you thinking, and it's a good addition to the Kings of Men series. I hope you enjoy this 5-minute sample. And that's when, out of the corner of my eye, I caught the birthday boy walking, shoulders slumped, along the sidewalk. My feet itched, and I got that feeling, the one that had landed me my job with King. I wanted to follow him. I started slinking down the sidewalk, keeping close to the building. "What the f*** are you doing, Trav?" Charlie called, but I didn't answer, and I didn't tear my eyes from him. Birthday boy. I wonder what his name is. "Don't go creepy on me, bro. We're on the clock." I didn't stop. I followed Birthday Boy, my chest going light and excited as I did. "Come back!" Charlie was farther away now, and I was busy sneaking from shadow to shadow, into abandoned doorways, behind garbage cans, anything to keep out of sight. The man seemed cold, and I wished I had my leather jacket to give him. He huddled. It was the end of August, and fall was fast approaching. The nights had only recently started to get cooler. I was close enough now that I could see him rubbing his hands up and down his arms, and I wanted to do it for him. He walked for a long while, and I wondered if maybe he came to the club with someone who left him there, or if he got an Uber and was so flustered when he left, he forgot to call another. I'd have worried about his safety, but I was there to protect him. Thankfully, he was walking toward the nicer area of the city, to the northwest where the older houses edged Lake Ontario. It was easier to hide my trail here, with bushes and trees and the occasional sign to slip behind. I followed him all the way to a fancy chateau-style house, way above and beyond anything I'd ever dreamed of living in, even when Pop was alive and still working at the docks, and Mom was a bartender on the weekends for fun money. These types of ritzy places were all over this neighborhood. Disappointed, I continued to trail him. If he lived in a house like that, there would be security cameras, maybe, or a system, and it would be a lot harder to stop back and check on him, if I wanted to. I shivered and shook my head at myself. I knew this wasn't normal, but it was what I was good at. I'd just never done this with someone who made me interested, personally, before. I didn't exactly date regularly either, though. There was just something about this guy. He was so different from the dudes I randomly at the King's Clubhouse, or when I was supposed to be on shift at Blackout. He wasn't on the prowl. I liked that. Happily, he went around the main house along a sidewalk, and I silently cheered when he made his way to a small carriage cottage. A lot of these older places had them, and rented them out. The tiny house was quaint and well lit, a stone building that matched the main house with ivy growing up the sides. He took out a set of keys, unlocked the door, and then went inside. When he closed the door behind him, I could hear it lock. The light over the door went dark. Good. I snuck over to peek in the front window, one of two on this side of the house, and realized that there must only be a couple of rooms in the whole place, because it wasn't a living room, but rather his bedroom, or what he was using as one. He stripped off his shirt, revealing perfect creamy skin and light pink nipples that made my mouth water. He sat down on the bed with a frown and dropped his face into his hands. I wanted to go in and hug him, but since I couldn't, I put my hand to the glass and stroked it for a few seconds, hoping maybe he'd feel better somehow. Yes, I wanted to come back here again. Glaring at the light over the front porch, I moved fast. I didn't want him to see me out here and feel scared. Taking off my own shirt, I wrapped it around my hand and reached up to unscrew the hot light bulb. It would be a lot easier to return later if there was no light back here. I'd keep him safe, so he didn't need it anyway. On the way out, I walked to the end of the driveway and threw the light bulb into a garbage can sitting there for the trucks later. I slipped my shirt back on before I shut the lid, but then realized there was some junk mail sitting on top, almost like someone had casually tossed it in on their way somewhere. Maybe to blackout? I picked a piece up and checked the address against the number on the mailbox near the big house. No, it was the same regular address, but there was a different secondary address with a C beside it on this envelope. Mackenzie Byrnes. I liked that. A cute name for a sweet guy who needed to be looked after. I buried the light bulb under a few other bags in the can, closed the lid, and then left with the junk mail stuffed into my back pocket. I started jogging. I'd be in trouble if I wasn't back at Blackout to hustle out the drinks at the end of the shift, and I only had 15 minutes to get back. I smiled the whole way. A link to purchase King's Eyes is in the description below. This title was a royalty share production, so I make 20% from any purchases. Thanks for listening.